Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grasitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayiniim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavat Gite Bhavadveshini. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Stunvante Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramo Panishadaihi Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yoginaha Yasyantanna Vidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Dieron una semana. ये बंद कर रहे हैं. Let us chant verse 33. Shreyan dravyamaya yajnyan Jnana yajnah parantapa Sarvam karma akhilam partha Jnane parisamapyate Tadvidhi pranipatena Pariprashnena sevaya Upadekshanti te jnanam Jnaninas tattvadarshinah. Sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. He Partha, all actions in their totality culminate into knowledge. We discuss this in two ways. थोड़ा कमायो छुट्टी शक्या. If by karma we mean sakama karma, an action performed with desire for happiness, then the meaning of this verse would be that sarvam karma khilam partha, the happiness that one gains from performing karmas in their entirety, all the karmas together, the amount of happiness that all the karmas together can give is more than included in the happiness that the knowledge gives. That's one interpretation. Yava nartha udapane sarvatas sampradodake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanatah. You see in this second chapter also, just as many shallow wells that are dug in the riverbed in summer, each one gives a little water. The water given by all the wells collectively is more than included when the river gets flooded. Similarly, the Brahmanasya Vijanatah. For a Brahmana, a Brahmajnani, the knower of Brahman, the happiness that one gains doesn't gain really, discover that happiness is myself, the limitless happiness I am. That limitless happiness which is a result of discovering the true nature of the self, the limitless happiness includes every limited happiness. Etasya anandasya anyani bhutani matram upajivanti. That all the beings sustain themselves from a fraction of the happiness, which is the happiness that is the self. The wise person becomes the owner, the attainer of the limitless happiness, which is the self, which is a result of knowing that I am limitless happiness. Or the other meaning can be that all the actions culminate into knowledge. Meaning the purpose of action is to ultimately lead us to the knowledge of the self. Tamedam vedan vachanena brahmanaha vividishanti yajnena danena tapasa anashakena. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that Brahmana, the aspirants, vividishanti, they seek to know the self. Yajnena danena tapasa anashakena. When yajna, dana, tapaha. Yajna, the act of worship. Dana, the acts of charity. Tapa, the acts of austerities. Vedanavacharam, the recital of Vedas. Meaning all the daily and incidental obligatory duties that are enjoined upon a person, or any other action. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yad juhoshi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Bhagavad Gita said the same thing. Yad juhoshi, yad dadasi, yat tapasyasi, or yajna, dana, tapaha, karma you perform. Yadashnasi, even the food that you eat. Yadeva karma, whatever you do. Tat kurushva madarpanam. Lord Krishna will say in the 9th chapter that whatever actions you perform by way of duty or by way of leading your life, daily life, It doesn't matter what action it is, as long as it's a right action based on dharma, of course. Perform the action as an offering to me, which will lead you to the sannyasa yoga yuktatma vimukto mam upaishyasi. You become free from all the bondage of karma. Become a sannyasi in the real sense of knowing the self, and will reach me as your own self. So thus karma through antahakarana shuddhi. Vividisha means veditam ichha, the desire to know. Brahmanaha vividishanti. The Brahmanas seek to discover the desire for knowledge. They want the desire for knowledge to arise in them. For which purpose? They perform their duties and their actions in the spirit of offering to Ishvara. In that sense, karma culminates into knowledge through antakarana shuddhi, through purification of mind, and of course, through receiving instruction from the teacher. In that sense, therefore, the next verse says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. What is the nature of that knowledge, or how to gain that knowledge? By gaining which you as well gain everything. Like how the usefulness that all those little shallow wells had in the riverbed was all more than fulfilled by the flooding of the water. Or by performing those actions selflessly, how they lead to the knowledge of a self. What's the nature of that knowledge? How to gain that knowledge? Lord Krishna will also say what is the nature of that knowledge. But the verse 34 that we just read, Lord Krishna is the process by which you gain that knowledge. Tad vidhi. You know that process by which you gain the knowledge. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipataha dirgha namaskaraha. Here Arjuna approached the wise teachers. Sadvidvan upasripyadam. May the aspirant approach properly the wise person. Pranipatena. What's the method of approaching the wise person, the teacher? By pranipata, by dirgha namaskar, by the long prostration called the Sashtanga Namaskara. Namaskara of prostration is done with all the 8 limbs. Janubhyam cha tatha padbhyam panibhyam urasadhiya. Janubhyam, your knees should touch the ground. Padbhyam, your feet should touch the ground. Panibhyam, your hands should touch the ground. Shirasa, your head also should touch the ground. All the limbs are the body touching the ground. Vachasa, manasa, drishtya. Also, drishtya. You are offering prostration even through a drishti. Vachasa, through your words. Manasa, through the attitude of your mind. Urasa, your chest also should touch the ground. The head, the shoulders, the chest, the knees, the feet, all of them touch the ground like a danda, like a staff. And this namaskara is also accompanied with the manasa, vachasa. with the attitude of the mind, devotion in the mind, with the words of devotion and surrender. Drishtya, your sight also. Tad vidhi pranipatena. So may you approach the wise teacher with the long prostration, dirgha namaskara, which is the sign of your surrender. And surrender being the sign of your shraddha or the trust in the teacher. Sevaya. You develop a bond with the teacher by seva, by service at the physical level. At the level of the intellect or mind, you are surrendered to the teacher. At the physical level also, you serve the teacher, which means you're in close proximity to the teacher. Develop a relationship with the teacher, of teacher and a student, father and son, whatever. And service means doing whatever the teacher needs. And an uttama shishya, the best among the disciples, knows what the teacher wants, what the teacher needs. And even before the need is expressed, he fulfills that need. This is the best among the disciples. The middling among the disciples is the one who fulfills the needs when told to do. Sevaya. Prasannam tamanuprapya. You find that the teacher is pleased with you. We discussed this pleasure of the teacher last time. The teacher is pleased with the aspirant, seeing the sincerity. That this one is sincere in gaining knowledge is no other agenda. And for that is totally available. Which means he has given up everything else. We can call it sannyasa. Or Puja Swami say, burning all the boats. No way, there is no going back. So this is what the teacher discovers about the student in course of time. As each one comes to know each other well. Prasannam tamanuprapya. Thus the disciple wins over the teacher. And when the teacher is pleased with the sincerity, with the commitment to the student, then he is ready to teach. Then he is inspired to teach. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. The wise and the realized saints. We said last time that Jnaninaha, Tattvadashinaha, they don't have different meanings. But since these two words are used together, therefore, we can compare them with the two words used in the Upanishad, Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Mundakopanishad said that the aspirant approaches the teacher. Samitpani with faggots in hand, with the gift in hand. Because one should not go, we should carry always some gift when go to the teacher, or to the king, or to the temple, the devata. Riktapanina pashyeda. One should not go empty-handed. Here he doesn't have anything there, but he just brings the gift in the form of some fuel, some samid, dry twigs, which can be useful for performing the homa. Upadekshantite jnanam. Here Arjuna, they will definitely impart that knowledge to you. So in this verse, Lord Krishna does not say what is the nature of knowledge. He says, what is the process by which one gains the knowledge, or one creates the conditions, circumstances for gaining the knowledge. Upadekshantite jnanam, that the wise and knowledgeable and wise teachers will impart the knowledge to you, which means that you will listen to the teacher. Shruti-shiro vakyam samakarnatam. You very well listen to the teacher. Shravanam atma var drashtavya, shrotavya, mantavya, nitidhyasitavya Maitreyi. Sri Yajnavalkya says to Maitreyi, hey Maitreyi, atma var drashtavya. The self must be seen as an immediate reality, as your own self. Brahman should be known. How do we do that? Shrotavya. May you listen to the teacher. Shravanam is not just listening. Shravanam is atma vichara, a deliberation upon the self. And how do you deliberate upon the self? By deliberating upon the statements of the Upanishad, which unfold the nature of the self. So deliberation about Atma or Brahman is undertaken by deliberating upon the meaning of the statements of the Upanishads or Vedanta. Because Brahman or Atma or identity of Brahman and Atma is the theme or the primary subject matter of the Upanishads or Vedanta. Except that deliberation should not be carried out independently. Keno Upanishad says, iti shushruma purvesham yenastad vyachachakshire. Iti purvesham shushrumaha. The teacher says to the disciples, Anyadevatad viditat atho aviditat adhi. Giving disciples a sutra or a formula of contemplating upon Brahman. Anyadevatad viditat, that Brahman is viditat anyat. Different from vidita, different from what is known or what is knowable. Atho aviditat adhi, and again it is different from the unknown. Known and unknown includes the entire drishya jatam, includes the whole gamut of what is perceptible, the object. Brahman is different from what is the object, what cannot be objectified, meaning it is self, Atma. Then the teacher says, iti shushrama purvesham yenastad vyachachakshire. Iti purvesham shushrama. This is how we listen to from the earlier teachers. Yenastad vyachachakshire. Those who expounded the nature of Brahman to us. This is how we learn from them. So teacher says that they learned, the teacher also learned from her own teacher. Who would say that they learned from their teachers? So that is the parampara, a whole tradition of teaching. And there is a method of unfoldment of the statements of the Upanishads. And therefore, even the teachers also did not perform the deliberation or contemplation by themselves. The teachers or wise also undertook the vichara, deliberation, with the help of their teachers, by listening to their teachers, unfoldment done by their teachers. So the method prescribed for, knowledge can be gained by vichara, by deliberating upon the nature of something. What is it? Kosavanatma, paramahkatma, tayor vivekah, kasametaduchyatam. What's the nature of non-self? What's the nature of self? How to distinguish self from the non-self? A scientist does, who deliberates upon the nature of what it is that he wants to investigate. And that deliberation takes place in the process of shravanam, listening to the teacher. Therefore, listening through vichara. And then next process, there's a primary way of learning, primary means of learning. And the next is mananam, subjecting our understanding with reasoning, subjecting to remove any doubts. And nididhyasanam, to remove any habitual error of identification with the body. Upadekshantite jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. So this is a process of gaining the knowledge from the teachers. What is the nature of knowledge? And what does that knowledge do? That is explained in the verse number 35. By the way, here Bhashyakara said that if this teaching is imparted by the wise people, then certainly the knowledge will take place. And what's the nature of knowledge? The verse 35 says, Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandava yena bhūtānya sheshena drakṣasyātmaññatho mayi. Yajñātvā, knowing which, or gaining which knowledge? Punarmoham na yasyasi pandava. Evam. He Pandava, he Arjuna, yajñātvā, gaining which knowledge? Punaha evam moham na yasyasi. Once again, punaha, na yasyasi, you will not gain moham, the moha, the delusion. Moha means aviveka. Nor inability to distinguish the self from the non-self. So lumping the self with the non-self or non-self with the self is aviveka or moha. Which is what everybody does anyway. We are born ignorant, and ignorance has two aspects, avarana and vikshepa. Avarana means not knowing the true nature of the self, and vikshepa means knowing it wrongly. Not knowing that I am Brahman, I am limitless, that I am just the consciousness enlivening this body, mind, sense complex, totally distinct from this upadhi or the body, mind, sense complex. And not knowing that, and further taking this body, mind, sense complex as myself. Not knowing that this body, this complex of body, sense organs, mind, intellect, is like a costume which is meant for carrying out the vyavahara, the transaction, the interaction, living the life. And I am not the costume, I am like the actor, playing variety of roles. What's the nature of actor? I am Brahman, the limitless, ever free. Not knowing this and identifying with the costume. Like an actor identifying with the costume of the beggar and thinking that he is a beggar. So this conclusion, the part of the actor that I am a beggar, is called moha, which is the result of not being able to distinguish between the costume and the self. Identifying with the costume and concluding that I am a beggar. That's the case with all of us since birth. That is, we say the body, sense organs, mind, intellect is in the place of a costume. The costume gets enlivened in the presence of consciousness, the self, and therefore it is taken to be the self habitually. So we are born with this habit or habitual error of identifying with the body, with the sense organs, with the mind, and therefore entertaining variety of notions about ourselves, conclusions about ourselves. Because of taking the body to the self, I think that I am a mortal being, subject to death, subject to birth, growth, old age, death, disease. Taking the sense organs to the self, I think that I am blind, I am lame, whatever. Taking the mind to the self, happy, unhappy, intellect to the self, successful, unsuccessful. All these variety of notions I am entertaining about myself, that I am an individual self, confined to this body, mind, sense complex. And the world outside is different from me, I am different from the world. And then this body is related to other individuals, and so I am related to them as father, as mother, as son, as daughter, as spouse. And that brings about a variety of feelings. The father brings about certain feelings in me, mother brings about feelings in me, son, daughter, spouse, teacher, disciple. All the relatives, because I am related, the thought of them brings about certain feelings in me. I am an emotional being, So all of this is a result of moha. And evam, here Arjuna, you will not gain the moha, the delusion like you have right now. You think that you are related to other Kauravas and they are related to you. That Bhishma is your grandfather or great-grandfather. Dronacharya is your teacher. Abhimanyu is your son. Duryodhana is your cousin. Tatra paschat sitan partha pitrun atha pitamahan acharyan matulan bhratrun pautran putran sakhim statha. Arjuna saw in both the armies the sons, grandsons, friends, elders, relatives, cousins, maternal uncles, paternal uncles, in-laws. You may say, Swami, that's a fact, they were all there. When do all these people become related to me? When I am Arjuna. When I identify myself as such and such individual. Which identity results from identification with this body, mind, sense complex, which is called moha. And therefore Arjuna thought that they will all die. And what shall I do without them? He also further thought that because actions are performed by this upadhi, and by identifying the upadhi, I think that I perform the actions. I am the karta, the doer of the actions, bhokta, the experience of results of the actions. That creates in me the sense of guilt and hurt. All of these are the reasons for the grief or sadness of Arjuna, which is what brought about the necessity of the whole teaching. To enable Arjuna to overcome, to become free from the grief, from samsara, by recognizing the true nature of the self. Yajñātvā na punarmoham evam vyāsasi Pandava. By knowing the self, Arjuna, which we all discussed, karmanya karmayas pashed, knowing yourself to be actionless. Then your complex is that you are a doer or karta, that will go away because you are actionless. You are bhokta, you are an experiencer, that notion, all these are moha. Moha, delusion is a bunch of all these notions or conclusions that I am a karta, a bhokta, a doer or an experiencer. And each one of these complexes is the result, results into some grief or the other at one time or the other. Yajñātva, knowing the true nature of the self from the teachers, evam in this manner, punaha moham na yasyasi, you will not once again attain this delusion, these complexes, which are the causes of grief and happiness, which veil the true nature of yourself, which is happiness. So what's the nature of the knowledge? When you say that you will know yourself truly, what is meant by the true nature of the self? The second line of the verse says that Yena bhutanya sheshena drakshasyaatmanyatho mai. Yena bhutani asheshena drakshasi atmani. Yena, by which knowledge? Asheshana bhutani atmani drakshasi. You will see all the beings in yourself. Arjuna, you'll discover that no being is different from you. They're all in you. They're because of you. They're nothing but you. Bhishma, Drona, Duryodhana, Karna, or Yudhishthira, Abhimanyu, all of these. Suhrun Mitra Yudasina Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhushu Sadhu Swabi Papeshu. A friend or a foe, a sinner or a saint, all of these will find that they're in you, not apart from you. You are their self, you are the self of all. Like an ornament discovering that I'm gold. When a small ornament discovers that I'm gold, then sees that I'm the self of all the ornaments. As gold, all the ornaments are in me. Not as an earring. But when the earring, which right now suffers from the conclusion that I'm an earring, and therefore different from the bangle. And bangle is much bigger than me. I am much smaller. And maybe bangle receives more attention than me, whatever kind of complexes the poor thing entertains. Then bangle may have its own complexes, which is samsara. But when this earring discovers its true nature, which is gold, as gold, dakshasi, bhutani, atmani, you see that all the ornaments are in you. You are the gold, you are Asti Bhadi Priyam, you are Satchidananda, and all the names and forms are in you. Yena bhutanya sheshena drakshasi atmani. Here, Arjuna, when your perception about yourself will change, your perception of everybody else also will change. Right now, all these people are different from you, and you are different from them. That's the perception. That's because you look upon yourself as an individual being identified with this body, mind, sense complex. When you will see the true nature of yourself, which is consciousness, Asti Bhati Priyam, you realize all of them are also consciousness manifesting through those names and forms. What consciousness? Yourself. You are manifesting through all of them, through all those names and forms. You are the self of all. So when your perception of yourself changes and I'm consciousness, then your perception of all of them also will change. They are no more separate from you. No question of your separating from them at all, which was the cause of grief. That you are actionless, you are akarta, abhokta, they are free from hurt and guilt. Yena bhutani asheshana drakshasi atmani atho mayi. The Lord Krishna says, and further, you will also see that all the beings are in me, in Ishvara. Meaning that you will discover that Atma is Ishvara. That what is called Ishvara right now is a creator, sustainer, dissolver, omniscient, omnipotent. Is also the essential nature of Ishvara also is a consciousness, which is your essential nature. And thus, you will discover the identity between yourself and Ishvara. Yajñātva. So this is the nature of knowledge that the teachers will impart to you. Sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. All the karma or actions, when performed with the right attitude, culminate into this knowledge. Thus, the process of gaining the knowledge and the nature of knowledge both are revealed or unfolded by Lord Krishna. Now, Lord Krishna himself sings the glories of this knowledge. Kinchetasya jnanasya mahatmyam. The greatness or the glory here, Arjuna, may you now listen to the greatness of this knowledge. The glory of this knowledge. So Lord Krishna sings the glories of the knowledge himself, praising the knowledge. So what does the knowledge do? The verse 36 tells us that. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam jnanaplavenaiva vrujinam santarishyasi. Apichet, even if sarvebhya papebhya papakrutama asi chet. Papa means papakrit. Here the word papaha means papi, a sinner. Papam means sin, but papa here means a sinner, papakrit. The performer of sin. What is sin? Sin can be explained as any action that is performed in violation to the basic law or harmony of the universe. What is called an act adharma. An act of violation of dharma or righteousness. Which is what very often people do. Whenever an action is performed, out of an impulse, such as kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, greed, jealousy, aggressiveness, frustration, then invariably there is violation of the existing law. I will be violating the rights of the others. The violence can be physical violence, verbal violence, mental violence. You can say an act of violence is papa karma, a sinful action. So action performed is impelled by the impulses of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, etc. All these inner impulses includes jealousy, hatred. And stronger the identification of upadhi, the mind performs violent actions when it is under the control or it is overpowered by rajas and tamas. The mind is sattvic, then actions are righteous actions, dharmic actions. When rajas takes over, when greed takes over, tamas takes over, anger, cruelty takes over, then actions are violent actions. And stronger the identification with this body-mind sense complex, more violent the actions are likely to be. Stronger the impulses are likely to be, stronger the identification with the body, stronger the ego, stronger the pride, stronger the needs or expectations, impulses are likely to be also stronger, and the action is likely to be more and more violent. So sin means this violent action. Action in violation to the basic law or harmony of the universe. An action performed in violence to my own self, because myself is a harmony. When I go against my own nature, and ignorance creates this. Avidya, kama, karma. Avidya, ignorance, causes identification. That causes kama, or krodha, or lobha. And karma, done by these impulses, is going to be a violent action, a sinful action. So everybody has a sin in one degree or the other, but there is what you call a sinner whose generally nature is perform violent actions. I mean, this is a term that I'm using, I'm just translating this. Our Swamiji may not like the word sin and may not like the word sinner also. For the simple reason that word sin is used in a technical manner by some people, it's just some connotation. Therefore, the word sin is not used. So the papam, the word can be translated as a violent action, an action performing violence to one's violation to one's own self. Sinner also is a technical term used elsewhere, and therefore also Swamiji was wary of that term as well. But in course of, if you don't do something about these impulsive actions, the impulse will become stronger and stronger. And we get more and more controlled by the impulses. Our actions also become controlled by the impulses. And actions are like more and more likely to be violent actions, in violation to the basic law of nature or nature of the self. So who is the papaha or papakrut? Whose nature it is to perform violent actions. If we do not do something about this, then it becomes our nature, habit becomes a habit. In the beginning, there is a hesitation in telling a lie. But I repeatedly do that, then lying doesn't bother me at all. I become more and more insensitive. When I am sensitive, then I feel something about violating the law. In course of time, I become insensitive. Then, without hesitation, I violate the law. That's called papaha, papakrut, whose nature it has become to perform this kind of sinful actions. Sarvebhya papebhya papakruttamaha. Here Arjuna, Asiche, if you are a papakrit, performer of these sinful actions, so you are the champion of all the sinners, if you want to say that. Papakrit tamaha. Papakrit, the performer of papa or violent action. Papakrit, papakruttara, papakruttama. The most vicious among the people who violate or perform these violent sinful actions. Apichet, in case, although this is not a possibility that some person can be more violent than all violent people, not possible, in case such a thing is there. Abhichet shows asambhavana. It is not possible that there is a person like that, but in case there is a person like that, that is only said to show the glory of knowledge. Sarvam jnana plaveneva vrujinam santarishyasi. Vrujinam. Vrujinam also means papa. Santarishyasi. Samyak tarishyasi. You will very well cross over the sin of vrujinam, an offensive action. Jnana plaveneva, by the plava or by the raft or the boat of knowledge. Santarishyasi will cross over. Vrujinam means the ocean of sin, ocean of samsara. And this samsara is compared to an ocean because it is shoreless. And similarly also, if nothing is done, then perhaps this person will keep on being born also again and again. 16th chapter will describe all of this. How Lord Krishna says that they are born in the further and further lower yonis or embodiments. Tanaham dushtah kruran samsareshu naradhavan kshipami ajasra ashubhan pasurishveva yonishu. They get born in asuri yonis. And thus there is no end by itself to this. That is why it is called ocean. Samsara is compared to ocean. Vrujinam, offensive action, also is compared to ocean here. And there is no way that you can cross. But look at the glory of this knowledge, Arjuna. Jnana plaveneva. Plava means a raft, or let us say a boat. By the boat of knowledge, you will cross over this ocean of sin, ocean of offensive action, ocean of samsara. So this word is told by Lord Krishna only to describe the glory of the knowledge. By knowledge, how do you do that? The next verse also is going to say that. But basically, let us say this, that all action originates from my notion that I am a karta, I am an agent of action. Even though action is performed by the upadhi, by the body, mind, sense complex, by identification with that, I think that I am the performer of action, and the one who performs action is accountable for the result of action also. So karta, who is the karta now, becomes bhokta later on. The doer becomes an experiencer later on. And that's how this chain continues. That's why it's compared to is an ocean. The chain of action and reaction. The kartrutva, bhoktrutva. And bhoktrutva leads to further kartrutva. By this knowledge, you'll discover that you are a karta, you are actionless self. And therefore, you have no connection with the action at all, no connection with the sin. We'll discuss this further in the next verse also. But this knowledge reveals the true nature of myself, which is the actionless self. And by seeing myself actionless self, I have no connection with action at all, no connection with sin. Here Bhashyakara says that by the word papa or the sin is meant not only sinful action, but even the dharma, virtuous action, punya also is included with papa. Because not only papa or sinful action gives us rebirth, but punya also gives us rebirth. Papa may give rebirth in lower embodiments, where pain is predominant. Punya may give us the birth in the higher embodiment where the pleasure is predominant. But we are not still free from the process of birth and death of samsara. Therefore, you will cross over the ocean of both punya and papa, because actionless self neither performs papa nor performs punya. Realize that you are unconnected with papa or punya. And that way this knowledge will enable you to cross over the ocean of karma, ocean of sin, ocean of samsara. That's how the Lord sings the glory of the knowledge, and He continues to do that in the subsequent verses also, which will continue with the next class. Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.